Welcome to Night Talk.
Hi, and welcome to Night Talk. I'm Reverend Dave Christensen. I'm your host for Night Talk and Real Ghost Stories. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about ghost hunting. I'm going to tell you some of the dangers and stuff tied to ghost hunting. I've been doing this paranormal investigating for over 21 years now. I have seen some serious stuff. I've been around some really nasty stuff. And I've been followed home before. And sometimes it's not easy getting rid of something that followed you home. So if you're thinking about becoming a ghost hunter, you might want to think twice about that idea. Ghost hunting is not a sport or a game, nor is this something you want to take lightly. There are dangers in ghost hunting that must be taken into consideration. These dangers will not only affect you, but the people around you as well. And in most cases, they're not immediately evident. It takes a period of time sometimes before something shows up, and most of the time it's too late. Your family can be affected in various serious ways, especially if you make something mad. Spirits are not stupid, and some of them will strike back if you anger them. How are you going to fight something that you can't see or touch? Seriously, think about that. Don't buy into the misconception the spirit can't follow you home, because they can, and they will. They can go anywhere they feel like going, at any time, and for any reason. Grant, some will not follow you for a number of different reasons, but are you willing to take that chance of something following you home and terrorizing your family? They will follow you for a number of reasons. You may have pissed one of them off. They may be physically attracted to you. You know, you might be a good-looking gal or a good-looking guy. You might remind them of somebody that they loved or somebody they hated. And they can sense that from you. Okay? When you show sympathy, they can sense that from you. And sometimes they'll follow you because of that, because you have that feeling of sympathy, sorrow for them. In any case, you are the one that made the initial contact with them. And in their minds, you are an outsider and possibly a way out for a spirit. Most spirits treat outsiders as intruders, because that's exactly what you are. You have entered into their domain without an invitation. Look at it this way. If I were to walk into your house one day or one night without you inviting me, I just show up and walk in, how are you going to react? You're going to blow a gasket, aren't you? If I just walk in your front door. After you have entered into a spirit's territory, you are risking retaliation from them in order to drive you out. You must stay alert and be respectful to them. Whether it is a cemetery, abandoned building, a private home, and so on, you have to be respectful. Keep in mind, most spirits you will encounter were living people at one time. Just because they are deceased now doesn't mean they cannot think, have emotions such as anger, fear, sadness, joy, and mistrust in strangers. Trust is something you must earn from the living as well as the dead. It isn't something given to a stranger freely. If you plan to ghost hunt, no matter what I tell you, at least pay attention to the following tips, okay? These tips are things that I've learned by trial and error over the years. Do not say or do anything to anger a spirit to get them to respond to you in any way. Do not disrupt the environment in a negative way. I mean, some young people, they have a tendency to go out to these abandoned buildings, abandoned homes, and write graffiti all over the walls, do drugs in them, have beer parties and stuff like that. Spirits don't like that kind of stuff. They don't like that at all. And if you keep that stuff up, one of these days, you're going to regret it. Do not move anything that does not need to be moved. Spirits do not like disruption or change in their environment. Okay? What I always do, a lot of times I go out by myself, but if I go out to an abandoned building, and I'll wander around there during the day, and if I see an obstacle in the way, a lot of times I'll say, hey, I need to move this. I hope you don't mind. And I'll pick it up and move it. Okay? That's letting the spirits know, okay, I know you're here, but I got to move this so nobody trips over it. If someone is being rude or disrespectful to the spirits, make them leave right away. Do not remove anything from the property. I don't care what it looks like, how old it is, how great a condition it is. It's considered theft by all the spirits. And you may regret it. We did an investigation about 12 years ago of an old abandoned house out by Norfolk. And while we were going through there, we found some antiques. And I knew better. I leave that stuff alone. But this gal, she saw an old antique plate. I mean, it was covered up with a little bit of stuff, but it wasn't broken. I mean, it was an old plate. And she snuck it out of there and took it home with her. About a week later, things started happening in her house. It started terrorizing her. And the plate that she stole would move by itself at night when she was in bed. She had it in a cabinet with some other antique stuff, and when she get up the next morning, she'd find it on the kitchen table. So it was letting her know, hey, you don't own this, okay? So we ended up going out there and putting it back and apologizing for taking it. And after we did, the activity in her house quit. Another thing you got to do, before you even start, see a priest or a minister and get a blessing of protection. I'm not talking about a voodoo priest or a Wiccan priest or anything like that. I'm talking about a Christian priest, minister. You need to get a blessing of protection. Investigate your home and all the homes of the people that plan on joining your group. A lot of times people, they don't know it, but they have spirits in their house. Okay? The chances of you having a spirit in your house is very high, especially if you live in certain locations. But just because a lot of people, they don't understand the definition of a haunting. A haunting is when a spirit interacts with the living, opening doors, making noises, talking, footsteps, stuff like that. They're interacting with the living. That's considered a haunting. A spirit, on the other hand, can be in your house, and you'd never know it. Okay? So we did a case years ago This gal called us up to come out and investigate her house, and she told us all kinds of stuff that was going on, everything else. And we went out there and we set up our equipment, and we found all kinds of spirits in there, and we got all kinds of EVP and everything else. And the gal freaked. She freaked because she didn't know something was in her house. What she did, she wanted us to come out, and she was going to watch us to see how we do things so that she could start a group of her own. Well, when she found out that she had spirits in her house, she dropped her lease and moved. If you determine that you have one or more spirits in your house, check the people in your group too. Check their houses. If you find out you have one or more spirits in your house, try to find out who they are. Try to get a count of how many are in there, because that way if something does follow you home, it's easier for you to find out who it is. You see what I'm saying? Keep the number of people in your group down to a minimum. The more people on an investigation will only lead to confusion and a chance of unwanted voiceovers during EVP sessions. That happened to us a lot. I'd take 4 or 5 people with us, and I'd be doing an EVP session, and somebody would say, ask them if their name is Betty Lou, or something like that, something stupid. Well, I'm doing an EVP recording, and now I got this guy or gal asking a question. So what I did is I said, okay, that was Betty Lou that asked a question. Then I continue on with what I was doing. That way I could determine if something was an EVP or if it's something somebody else said. Get permission for a location if it's on private property, like an old abandoned house or a building or whatever. You need to get permission, okay, to go in there. Because a lot of these farmers, they don't mind if you come to them and you say, hey, I saw this old house. Can I check it out? A lot of them say, well, yeah, but be careful, because we don't want you to get hurt. But if you go out there on your own, some of these old boys don't like that because you just disrespected them. That was their property that you're walking around on. And it's a good way to get arrested. Okay, you don't want to spend your Friday or Saturday night sitting in a jail somewhere. Trespassing is a very serious offense. Okay, go to the location and look around during the day. If you go to an abandoned house or something, even a cemetery, I don't care, wherever you go there during the day and look around. Make sure there's no hazards around where somebody could trip or fall or something fall on them, or find out what kind of obstacles there are. When your investigation is about to start, turn on one of your recorders as soon as you get to the location, before you even get out of your car. A lot of times, especially on abandoned houses and stuff, we discovered as soon as we pull into the property, some of the spirits will come out to see what the heck's going on. And if you turn your recorder on just before you get out of the car, a lot of times you'll pick up on them talking to each other, asking, what do they want, stuff like that. Do not split up in small groups. When you split up in small groups, that can cause some serious problems, okay? Because something may happen, you may hear a noise or see something, and it's hard to tell whether or not it was paranormal or if it was somebody in the other group walking around. So try to stay together. When I go investigating, I usually only take 2 to 3 people with me, if that many. A lot of times when I go do an investigation, I go by myself. I'm not afraid of cemeteries at night. I've been in a lot of cemeteries at night. And as long as I go in there with good intentions and showing respect, I have nothing to worry about. But stay together. Don't separate, okay? That way, you know what's going on all the time. When you're doing an EVP, I only record for about 5 minutes at a time. And the reason why I do that is easier for me to go through the EVP recordings one after the other than it is to go through one that's 20, 30 minutes long. It's a pain in the back end. So if you only do it for 5 minutes at a time, it's much, much easier. Do it for 5 minutes, turn your recorder off, turn it back on, do another 5, okay? You break it down. When entering an area to conduct an investigation, you must keep in mind the fact that you are an intruder, okay? After a few minutes of being there, apologize to the spirits at the location for the intrusion. Tell them why you're there. You could say something like, we are sorry for bothering you, and we hope you don't mind that we are here. We would just like to talk to you or to communicate with you and ask you some questions and take a few pictures if you don't mind. Okay, there you go. You asked for permission. You told the spirits what you're going to plan on doing, and you're being upfront with them. Okay? If you meet a stranger and that stranger is upfront with you and tells you, okay, I'm here to talk to you about this and this and this and this, you have a tendency to trust them a little bit more. Not totally, but a little bit. Tell the spirit your first name. Never give them your last name. Don't ever give a spirit your last name, okay? Just tell them, your name is Bill or Joe, whatever the hell it is. Let me see. Do not use bright lights. Okay, spirits don't like bright lights, especially at night. Use dim ones. You know those glow sticks that you bust in half and they glow? Those things work great. They don't put off a heck of a lot of light. They just put out enough for you to see where you're going. And most spirits don't like light. And when you're whipping around with a bright 500-watt floodlight, you're not going to get anywhere with them. Spirits do not ask for respect. Spirits demand respect. Be polite at all times when you're talking to them and asking questions. Most of them are people, and they will react in a positive way when you are polite. The words please and thank you are not hard to say. I mean, come on. However, they do reflect on what kind of person you are. Okay? You got to admit, you have a tendency to like polite people more than you do some jerk. Okay? Do not allow anyone in the group to talk or whisper while doing an EVP session. I already told you that part. Do not, for any reason, try to get a reaction from them. You see a lot of these ghost hunting shows where they say, okay, prove to me that you're here. Move that table. Slam that door. Come on, hit me. Hit me, I dare you. Nah, not a good idea, okay? Because one of these days you're going to do that and they're going to beat the hell out of you. Give spirits the option to answer your questions, okay? Tell them that you'd like them to answer your questions and, say something like, I got a couple questions for you if you don't mind. Blah, 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 blah. So on, so on, so on. Allow 10 to 15 seconds for a spirit to answer your question when you're doing an EVP session. Sometimes the spirit's response time is longer, okay? If you ask your buddy sitting next to you, hey, buddy, what time is it? He's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. Okay. It's not the same way in the spirit world. I don't know why. But I've noticed a lot of times I'd ask a question, and the answer would be 5 seconds, 10 seconds later, you know. When you finish investigating an area, thank the spirits for allowing you to be there. Okay? Excuse me. It's not hard to do. You know, I always say, well, hey, thanks for letting me come and talk to you, and thanks for asking or answering my questions if you did. I also ask them, do you have any questions or comments for me? Then I allow like 2 minutes or more sometimes to let them respond. And then tell them, okay, if you ask me a question, when I come back next time, if I can answer it for you, I will. And do it. Go back and answer their questions. I've done it before. I've gone back and answered questions that a spirit would ask of me, you know. Never communicate with a client while they are at the location of where the haunting is. Okay, say Betty Lou calls you on the phone and says, hey, I got something going on in my house and I want you to come check it out. Don't ask her, well, what's going on? Say, hey, okay, where's the closest pancake house to you? Or is there a Burger King or a McDonald's or maybe a coffee shop? And meet them there. Don't ever talk to a client while they're inside the haunted location. And the reason for that is a spirit could be standing right there listening. And if they're typing, sending you a message on their computer or an email, who's to say they're not standing behind you reading it? Okay? Meet with them at a coffee shop or somewhere else where you guys could sit down and record your interview with them. And tell them, if you need to get a hold of me again, just give me a call and we can meet here again or we can meet somewhere else again. And explain to them, you don't want them to talk about their problem while they're in the location because they don't know if somebody is standing there listening. And if spirits know you're going to come and start snooping around, more than likely they're going to say, nah, we're not going to cooperate. We're not talking to you. If you're going to investigate somebody's home, after you meet with them, tell them that you would like to do what I call a no-knock. I came up with this, about 10 years ago, and it works great. What a no-knock is that you make an arrangement for a specific date and time to go to somebody's house. Okay? When you get within a block of the house, pull over, call them on the phone and say, we're here. It's better to go one person. Trust me, it's better just one person go. But you call them on the phone and say, hey, I'm here. I'm down the street. I'm going to be there in a couple minutes. And have them turn off everything that makes sound. TV, dishwasher, whatever it is. Make sure they turn everything off that makes sound. And tell them, when I come in your front door, don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't acknowledge that I'm even there. Just pretend like you don't even see me. Then when you get to their location, walk in the front door. If they're standing in the kitchen doing dishes or something, walk up to them and stand next to them. Just stand there for a minute or so, then start walking around. Okay, if they have any pets, like say they have a dog, have them put the dog outside. You don't need a dog eating your leg, and you don't need a dog barking at you because that will draw the attention of the homeowner, right? So put the dog outside. Turn your recorder on as soon as you get out of the car. Leave it on when you go in the house and walk from room to room, every room in the house, and stand in the room for about a minute or so. Then when you get done, just walk out the door, get in your car and leave. You will be surprised how many spirits go nuts when you come into the house, go up to the homeowner, stand right next to them, and they don't even acknowledge you're there. It just freaks them out. It just blows their mind. I did it here to a woman's house not too long ago. I'm going to be interviewing her on Real Ghost Stories, I believe, Friday night. Yeah, Friday night at 8 o'clock on Real Ghost Stories. I'm going to talk to her, and I'll tell you about the no-knock I pulled on her house. But anyway, there are 7 top things you need to remember at all times. And I'm going to play you a video of those 7 top things. You ready? Let's do it.
When paranormal investigating or ghost hunting, there are a few things you need to be informed upon. The haunted location you visit will be infested with either spirits or demons. If you're not prepared mentally and spiritually, these entities can follow you home or attach to you. You need to keep in mind, some individuals are more susceptible to others spiritually when encountering ghosts or demons, so it is important to consider not only your safety, but also the safety of others investigating with you. Number 2. If a demon or spirit follows you home, he or she can attack not only you, but those in your household. That includes family members and even friends. These entities latch on to whoever they believe is the most vulnerable, whether it is a sister you may have at home, or a father prone to violent activity. They will prey on the most accessible victim. Those who are easier to lure, or those whom are sensitive to the spiritual realm. Number 3. When a demon or spirit decides to latch on to you or a loved one, their means of attack are not usually through poltergeist activity or visual obstruction within your home. They take pleasure in attacking you mentally, physically, and spiritually. For instance, you can become frustrated or angry at things that usually do not upset you. You might even begin to have certain negative thoughts against a loved one or close relationships you never had before. These spirits can alter your life silently, destroy your relationships, and consume you mentally without your knowledge. They wish to isolate you from everything positive and drag you down an abyss of pure negativity. It is up to you to analyze your actions and thoughts after an investigation and realize whether you have been affected by the location visited or not. If so, a cleansing must be done immediately. Number 4. Demonic entities and spirits can lead to oppression, which can eventually lead to possession, and in other cases, depression, extreme fatigue, psychosis, accidents, suicide, and other forms of physical and mental attacks. When communicating with the spiritual world, never provoke any spirit into manifesting itself for your benefit or for the sake of capturing paranormal activity. Confronting a demon with profanity, violence, and hostility can lead to disastrous consequences and even fatalities. Remaining polite with the spirit or entity you are communicating with during an investigation is important to avoid angering any spirits or possible demons, and giving them a reason to attack you and wreak havoc on your life later on. Number 5. Before entering a haunted location, you must prepare yourself mentally. Protection prayers, holy water, and religious objects can assist with building spiritual barriers against evil spirits. After leaving an investigation, you must repeat your process of protection in order to cleanse yourself and others of any negative spirit that might have attached or followed you from the location. Number 6. Demons and evil spirits aren't the only entities that can attack you. Ghosts of those who have died due to suicide, addictions, or other negative forms of provoked deaths can also attach to you. and modify your behavior and thoughts. For example, if you come across a ghost who had committed suicide, it is possible for the spirit's previous suicidal thoughts to become yours, or you can begin to experience symptoms of depression that eventually may overcome you after communicating with the spirit or simply being present around it. Number 7. When ghost hunting, you must never go intoxicated, sleepless, or when emotionally weak. When you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs, you become vulnerable and much more susceptible for spirits to gain access into your mind and body. This is also the case when you're lacking sleep or feeling depressed or emotionally disturbed in any way. In order to avoid a psychic attack, you should always be fully rested, sober, and emotionally stable. Demons and evil spirits feed off of fear, anxiety, and guilt. They utilize your past traumas or emotional wounds to influence your thoughts and perturb your spirit. It is important to be aware of how these entities operate in order to protect yourself from them. Only then will you be able to fight back. You must always remember, it is not a physical fight when encountering negative entities, but a battle of the mind. Knowledge is indeed power.
Those 7 cautions that were just mentioned are very important. Those things you have to keep in mind, okay? The rest of the stuff I told you got to keep in mind too, but those 7 things, those are the most important things you got to keep in mind. Now, a lot of people, they have deceased loved ones, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and you go to visit them at the cemetery, and sometimes you might take your little kids with you. Don't ever take little kids to a cemetery with you. Don't ever do that. Because spirits can attach to them so very easily and follow your kids home. And they can affect your kids. I'm very serious about this. I'm going to play a video called Graveyard Danger, explained by Hans Wilhelm. Hans Wilhelm is an author, a very intelligent man, and he does some serious research into a lot of these issues. So I'm going to play Hans right now, and then I'll get back to you.
Hi, I'm Hans Wilhelm. Again, I'm about to share something that is a bit unusual and difficult to believe, particularly if you have never heard about it before. I'm going to talk about earthbound spirits, which I've already mentioned in my video on Death and Dying Part 2. Today we will look at a very special group, the one that resides on cemeteries.
What most people are not aware of is that almost every graveyard is populated with earthbound souls. Those with psychic gifts can actually see these souls as they are clinging to their grave, or better, to their physical body in the grave. They never accepted the fact that life continues after death. During their earthly life, they only identified with their physical body. Now they are stuck here, and many of them are an unhappy bunch of souls that frequently argue and fight with each other. In addition, there are also other souls that were indoctrinated with the religious belief of final judgment day and the resurrection of the dead in their physical body. All these souls can be stuck there for years and even centuries because of their passionate beliefs. We know from my other videos that our intense beliefs have the power to determine where our soul will be after the physical death. But none of these souls are forgotten or lost. Time and again, their spiritual guides come and talk to these souls. They are often accompanied by other angelic beings from the higher spheres. Together they hope that these confused souls will follow them to the purification spheres and leave the material world behind. These angelic beings will pray with and for them, and occasionally one of these very sad souls will turn around and go with them to their appropriate spheres. So a graveyard may look peaceful and restful, but in truth, it can be a busy place with many different earthbound souls that are emotionally attached to their body or the place where their body rests. Why is it so important for us to know? These earthbound souls may have problems trusting and accepting their spiritual guides because they look so different to them. But they do not have such problems with human beings. When we come and visit a graveyard, these souls rush to us and try to communicate with us. But when they see that their efforts are fruitless, they can become very frustrated and even nasty because they are not heard. But there are also some souls who get great comfort when the visitors pray for somebody, especially if they pray for them. This can cause such a soul to follow these visitors and cling to them. But not every soul can actually leave the graveyard as their belief ties them to their grave. These earthbound souls that we find stuck in cemeteries are in total contrast to souls who have knowledge about the continuation of life after death. For them, their grave has as little meaning as their physical body they left behind. If you still have the need to visit graveyards, you may say a prayer for all these earthbound souls, that they may open themselves up to the help offered by their guardian angel and to follow their guidance. The spiritual world tells us that every visitor should also pay great attention when he leaves the cemetery. It is suggested to give a strong command to all those unseen souls that surround him and want to attach themselves to him. We can say, remove yourself and call for your guardian spirit to help and to guide you. Follow him. God bless you all. This way, the visitor can protect himself from the dark radiation from the graveyard and avoids attachments, future complications, and sufferings. Well-balanced humans usually have little to fear, but less so any emotionally unstable person. Please bear this constant danger in mind whenever you think you should take children to a graveyard. There is a better alternative to visiting a cemetery that you may want to consider. Simply light a candle at home in memory of the person you wish to remember. By adding loving thoughts and a blessing, we can help the soul of that person much more on their spiritual path than a visit to their gravesite could do. Thank you for watching.
Hans is a very intelligent man, well-informed, well-educated. He has written a ton of books, and in many different languages pertaining to the paranormal and other subjects. But I found, okay, let me get my thoughts together here. Okay, when you go to do an investigation, you have to prepare yourself. Okay, not only mentally, but spiritually. I found a video on YouTube published by Tameside Paranormal Researchers, and one of their members, named Christine. She discusses the spiritual side of paranormal investigation. This is a short video with some advice on the topic of protection that investigators could use while on location. I should say that they should use. So I'm going to play her real quick here, and then we'll move on.
Christine here with Tameside Paranormal Researchers. Now, when going out on paranormal investigations, it's advisable that investigators engage in some sort of spiritual protection before setting out and after the invest has concluded. Today, I'd like to discuss some of the reasons why protection is important and some different methods people use. When going out to investigate the paranormal, in essence, we're encouraging spiritual activity. We never know what type of being or energy might make its presence known. An evil person in life may well be an evil person in death. An energy of evil, or a demon for lack of a better term, may have no other intention but to bring negativity in any way it can. We have no handbook on the capabilities of these beings, and so protecting yourself is, in my opinion, not only wise, but necessary. Some of the more common problems documented by investigators include obsession, attachment, oppression, and in rare cases, possession. With obsession, the afflicted can become obsessed with a particular location, either investigating it or just an unreasonable attraction to being there. There are theories that this could be due to either a spirit or entity affecting the person, or that the afflicted has had an association with the location in a past life. Attachment is thought to be when a spirit attaches itself to a person. Symptoms can include unexplained depression, fatigue, anger, fear, nightmares, and panic attacks. Sudden changes in mood and uncharacteristic changes in personality or behavior have also been reported. Oppression, while the symptoms are similar to attachment, it's thought to be associated with demonic activity and are therefore more severe with overtones of hatred and malice. Possession is thought to be a demonic entity gaining control of the actions of a human being. Now, I think we can all agree that if we can theoretically lessen a potential risk, why not? But how, you ask? Well, here's where I hope to be of help. Now, on a personal level, if you choose to seek out spiritual protection before and after an invest, try to make it something meaningful to you. There are no steadfast rules as to what needs to be done or said. It can be based on your religion of choice, or, for those atheists among us, it can be a general request for protection from the universe. You can recite a well-known prayer or write one yourself. You may prefer to use visualization or keep a lucky charm in your pocket. You can pray together as a group, privately on your own, or both. When TPR goes out on an investigation, one of the group, usually Dave, says a short prayer of protection in the car on behalf of the whole group. In addition to that, I will wear religious jewelry and pray privately for a few minutes on the way to the location. As we are leaving the location, one of the team, usually Dave, will say a prayer asking that any and all spirits return from whence they came. Firstly, consider your own spiritual beliefs. Do you actively subscribe to a particular religion? If so, finding a protection prayer or mantra should be relatively simple. For example, for Christians and Catholics, the Lord's Prayer or Prayer to Saint Michael are commonly used. In Judaism, reciting Psalms 27, 1 through 3. Buddhists might do a Parita chanting and wear an image of the parasol. Pagans may do a visualization spell. You may also combine any of these if you're of the universalist mentality. I suggest trying a few things until you find what you're comfortable with. Again, there are no set rules. So, I hope I've got you thinking about your spiritual protection. I hope I gave any beginners a starting point and the experienced something to ponder. From me and Tameside Paranormal Researchers, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment on the video. Be safe and happy hunting!
Yeah, when I get to the end of videos, I don't like seeing all that stuff at the end of it, but it's the law. It's the law. It's not my video, it's somebody else's video, so I have to show it. But anyway, I hope this was informative for anybody that's thinking about becoming a ghost hunter. Matter of fact, I'm looking for people to start subgroups, and I will more or less teach them the do's and don'ts and help them out as much as I can. This Friday, May 31st at 8 p.m. on Real Ghost Stories, one of the other feeds I do, I'm going to be interviewing a woman from Fremont, Nebraska. I will talk to her about her deceased husband and a haunting that occurred in her previous home. She moved into a new house only to discover it was haunted as well, but not by the same spirits. The haunting didn't affect her that much, but it did her little dog. And, well, I'm going to talk to her about it. And I'll talk about the cleansing we did in her house, and that worked too. But our next upcoming feeds on Night Talk, the history of vampires on June 6th, near-death experiences, evidence of the afterlife on June 13th, an astral projection on June 20th. I have done astral projection, but I didn't know that's what it was until I started doing research on this topic. And it kind of blew me away when I realized what happened. I'll tell you about my experiences. I've had 3 over the years, but one of them was really freaky. I was in somebody's house. But anyway, there's something else I want to mention to you. Real ghost stories. It's a feed that I'm trying to work on. And I need people to give me their ghost stories. What I do is, if you call that phone number right there, leave your name, a phone number, the state that you live in, and a brief description of the story you want to talk about, what I'll do is I'll call you back. Our answering system is on the computer. So it's not like you're calling my cell phone. You're actually calling a computer. That's why, I'm not around to answer it, because it's a machine. But if you leave that information, then I can call you back and I can say, okay, tell me what's going on, Now, you can do a pre-recorded interview with me where I can talk to you about your haunting and ask you some questions. Or you can arrange to go live during one of the feeds on Real Ghost Stories and tell people about your experience. It's entirely up to you, okay? But I need people to start telling me some ghost stories, okay? You may have experienced something paranormal, or maybe you know of something paranormal in your area that you wouldn't mind telling us about. People prefer to hear ghost stories than they do reading them. Reading them is kind of boring. But if you get it from the person who experienced it, it's more effective, more interesting, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here, you guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight, and I hope you guys have a good night.
You're going to come back and see us, aren't you? You better be. We need you. We gotta have you. We depend on you. Come on back and see us. Come find me.